This is Michael Popok, Legal AF. Ken Chesebro, lawyer for Donald Trump, is such an interesting co-conspirator in Fani Willis's Georgia indictment. He keeps filing lots of papers to try to move to dismiss the indictment, move to quash the indictment, move to impose the supremacy clause as an immunity for him. I'll talk about that. And he also has just recently filed today a motion to dismiss on the grounds that he was just doing his job as a lawyer. And he has a justification defense that even if the jury finds him guilty of all of the things that are listed in Fani Willis's indictment, he's justified because he was a lawyer getting paid to give analysis to a client, try to solve problems with unique solutions. And therefore, even though part of that was a fraudulent conspiracy to overturn the will of the people and hand the election to Donald Trump, he's justified because he's just a lawyer doing his job. There's a lot of problems with that recent filing that he just did on the heels of the other two pieces of paper that he's filed since the beginning of September. But ultimately, in the last few days, we get a full picture of why Ken Chesebro is going to be going to trial in October against Fani Willis and appears to be outmatched. He likes to call himself a constitutional scholar who's been retained by various parties. You know, he once worked for Gore in Bush v. Gore. And therefore, he's just doing his job, except if you read the indictment, he did more than that. He was the architect of the fake elector scheme. But here's the most interesting thing. Yes, it's interesting that today in his current motion, which is to be contrasted with a motion that he filed 5 days ago, he's now claiming the entire indictment against him should be dismissed because he has a justification defense under Georgia law. The justification is, I was a lawyer. Even though he was a lawyer who was participating in a coup, apparently that seems to be lost on Mr. Chesebro, the very gravamen or heart of the indictment. But the real information that throws all of the 19 co-conspirators on the bus is inside of one of Ken Chesebro's own filings recently. He filed in his own motion to quash what they call a demurrer of the indictment. Buried in the demurrer papers is an argument I've never seen before, more of a confession by Ken Chesebro, one that's gotten very little attention, but I'm going to talk about it now. Ken Chesebro said in his filings that he just wrote 2 legal memos. And in those 2 legal memos, just answering a question that was posed to him by John Eastman, Rudy Giuliani, Sidney Powell, and Donald Trump. He said there could be an alternate slate of electors as long as, at the time that they met, there was a valid legal challenge pending. Did you hear those words? There needed to be a valid legal challenge to the election pending at the time the fake electors met in order for the fake electors to be used, except there weren't any. By the time the fake electors met in secret, surreptitiously, lying about their whereabouts, lying about their activities, signing literally to the bottom of the conspiracy, the fake elector certificates, there were no valid pending legal challenges. So by his very admission and confession, Ken Chesebro has just slit his own throat. If I'm Fani Willis, I use that in my opening against Ken Chesebro and Sidney Powell in their trial that's coming up on election interference in October, in less than 6 weeks. And I use it against all the others too. This is what happens when you have 19 crabs trying to crawl out of a bucket, right? You have them taking inconsistent positions, and eventually they're going to slip and tell the truth. And that's what we have here. We have what's called in Washington a Freudian slip because Ken Chesebro accidentally told the truth. And the truth is, without a valid legal challenge, there can be no alternate slate of electors. They're just called fake and false electors, and that Donald Trump was using them to try to cling to power. As a reminder, there's always a couple of slates of electors. There's the one for the losing candidate. There's one for the winning candidate. Once the winning candidate is certified, and Joe Biden was certified 3 times in Georgia. He won the popular vote on election night. He won the popular vote on a hand recount. He won the popular vote on an audit. And then it was certified by the Secretary of State and the governor of Georgia as the winner, and the electoral votes were given to him. And the slate of electors for Biden said, hooray! And the ones that were waiting around to see if Trump was somehow going to pull it out said boo and went home, or they should have gone home, until they popped back up and started signing fake certificates, ones that they sent to the National Archive, ones that they sent to the Mike Pence, right? This is the difference between valid First Amendment, I don't like the results and I'm going to claim that there's fraud in the election, which is sort of okay, with conduct based on that, which is what these people are being charged with. Not First Amendment expression, conduct. That is false. The First Amendment doesn't protect false conduct fundamentally. And so we have buried in the last few days in Ken Chesebro a confession that without a valid pending lawsuit to overturn the will of the people, the fake electors are fake electors. And so that admission, which was buried in Ken Chesebro's motion or demurrer against the indictment, hasn't gotten much press and much play. And now he's filed a new one today claiming, oh, and by the way, it's always, oh, and by the way with Chesebro. He files, it's like he thinks he's going to get extra credit for filing so many papers showing, I know Georgia procedural law. I'll file a motion to dismiss on the supremacy clause, arguing that the Georgia election is really governed by federal law and the certification of electors is federal law and Georgia has no role in it. That's a loser. He files that first. Then he files the demurrer on the indictment to argue that I was just writing legal memos. And I told them, those other co-conspirators, don't use the fake electors. I'm sorry, the alternate slate of electors if you don't have a valid pending legal challenge. And now in the new one, it's I'm just the lawyer. I'm just a poor country lawyer and constitutional scholar that was just writing memos, and this is what I get paid to do on a daily basis. This is daily activity for a lawyer, solving really novel questions posed to you by a client, except when the client is posing a question to you about how to commit a crime and do election interference in violation of constitutional oaths of office and duties and Georgia law in this case. And then you don't get the benefit of the justification for the defense that you're trying to assert. I also find it interesting that in order for Ken Chesebro to get the justification defense that he's now raising, the jury has to assume the jury finds him guilty of all of the acts. And I want to read for you these acts. I'm going to go, it looks like I'm going under my table to go pull up the acts. I was really just plugging in my laptop. But look, putting that aside for a minute, stays in the pod. This is what he's accused of. It's not writing memos. This is from the indictment, my dog-eared copy of the indictment. Act 48 out of 161 overt acts. On or about the 10th of December, 2020, Ken Chesebro sent an email with attached documents to David Schaefer, who was the head of the Republican Party at that time. The documents were to be used by the Trump presidential elector nominees in Georgia for the purpose of casting electoral votes for Donald Trump on December 14th, despite the fact that Donald Trump lost the November 3rd presidential election in Georgia. On October the 10th as well, Ken Chesebro sent an email with an attachment of documents to the Arizona Republican Party executive director. The documents were to be used by the presidential electors for Trump in Arizona for the purpose of casting votes for Donald Trump on December the 14th, 2020, even though Arizona had certified the election for Joe Biden on November 3rd. On the same day, Ken Chesebro sent an email to the Republican Party of Wisconsin chairman with proposed language for documents to be used by the Wisconsin electors, fake electors, on December 14th, even though he lost that election on November 30th. He did the same thing in Nevada. He did the same thing in Pennsylvania. And this is part of the overt acts for which he's involved. Not just sitting in a room giving advice to a client, doing conduct and acts in furtherance of the conspiracy, Mr. Chesebro. That's why you've been indicted. We'll continue to follow anything else that Ken Chesebro would like to file. I mean, I think he thinks he gets extra credit. Oh, well, I'm wrong, but I filed 3 papers that are wrong. Do I get extra credit? No. You get indicted and likely convicted by a jury of your peers in Georgia. That's what you get. And you get maybe the Donald Trump home game. Johnny, what do we have for Ken Chesebro? Anyway, that's Ken Chesebro. He's fascinating because he thinks he's outthinking Fani Willis when all he's doing is furthering and deepening the level of conspiracy and evidence against him. I'll follow it on hot takes like this one. Only one place, Legal AF on the MeidasTouch network. You can follow me also on our Legal AF podcast on Wednesdays and Saturdays. You can follow all of my work on the MeidasTouch YouTube channel. Free subscribe, help them get to 2 million. And you can follow my body of work under playlists on the MeidasTouch YouTube channel. Until my next hot take, probably talking about Ken Chesebro again. This is Michael Popok, Legal AF.
Hey, Meidas Mighty. Love this report? Continue the conversation by following us on Instagram @MeidasTouch to keep up with the most important news of the day. What are you waiting for? Follow us now.